Hey guys, it's your Peacekeeper, and it's time for the final video in our How to Play series on the German cruiser line. This is the Tier 10 Battleship Hindenburg. Yes, I know it's not a battleship, but you'll see why as we go through this, why I frequently refer to the Hindenburg as a battleship. This ship is a paper ship. In fact, I can't find really any information about this ship online. Best I can tell is it's basically a hipper made just a slight bit longer, and then adding triple guns and probably a smidge more armor. So, yeah, more than a smidge, about 30 millimeters of belt armor, it looks like. So basically, imagine a hipper with 12 guns instead of 8, which is what we've got. Fantastic ship, just absolutely fantastic. I can't stress that enough. This is by far my favorite ship in the game. A well-played Hindenburg is a force to be reckoned with. It is just an unbelievably good ship. So, let's talk about our in-game playstyle. Basically, this ship continues on where Rune left off. Ron. As I've been corrected, it takes off where the ship left off. I mean, you've got the same basic play style. The ship itself isn't overly maneuverable without the rudder shift modules. And once you've got the rudder shift modules, both of them, the ship is really quite agile. I'm not going to say it's going to win any, races with its 31.5 knot speed, and I'm not going to say it's going to outhandle, some of the Royal Navy cruisers like the Minotaur with its 800 meter turning radius, but, the ship does really quite well, and it's best played at that medium to long ranges. That part hasn't really changed any, and so you've still got this long-range plinking style that's going on, and with that, I mean, you've got the fantastic HE, you've got the fantastic AP. I mean, the ship it's solid all the way around. There's very little about the ship that I don't care for. It's not as stealthy as some of the other ships are. It's not as fast as some of the other ships are. In fact, you'll get chased down by an Iowa in this thing. The nice part is, this ship is durable enough that, you can put a pretty good hurting on a battleship if it decides to get close enough to you. And if they ever expose a broadside, God help them, because the AP on this thing is nuts. And the reload time is fast enough that you just continuously punish them for being broadside. It's not like just once or twice. It's a continuous punishment. And that is really what makes this ship quite special, in my opinion. I mean, if you love big damage numbers on a ship, like a battleship, Hindenburg is really, really, really your go-to ship, because this ship will produce, we'll just say we're in a tier 10 match that happens to have tier 8s like the North Carolina. This ship, if it catches a North Carolina broadside, one salvo to the right location on the ship, you'll see 12 to 16,000 damage hits without a single citadel. That's all in straight normal penetrations. The ship is accurate even at long range. And when that AP pens, it does a lot of really, really high damage numbers. And that's without citadels. That's just in straight normal pens. So that's really, really, really awesome. And then on top of that, it's a cruiser. It has great AA. It has the option of German hydro if you ever decide to take it. I struggle to find faults with it. I guess you can say that at longer ranges the ship gets citadeled easily, but the ship has undergone a number of different buffs recently to armor that have really helped it out. Plus, we've got the HE penetration buff, which, man, so we've taken a nation that's not supposed to have particularly good HE, and we've made it so that its high explosive actually penetrates, which means it's going to do more reliable damage to more ships. Now, I've not tried the HE to actually citadel ships. I'm not even familiar with what the actual penetration value would be, nor does it really matter to me, because I don't think there's too many cruisers that you could citadel with this thing's HE. Basically, what the caliber penetration rule comes down to is more penetrations, more penetrating hits. That means higher fire starting chance, because your fire starting chance goes up with penetrations. And by goes up, what I really mean is you don't lose anything by your HE when it pens. If you shatter, you can still start fires. However, the shattering cuts the fire chance down significantly, like to near zero. So it's much harder to get fires if your shells aren't penetrating. Well, with the 1/4 caliber rule for HE penetration instead of the 1/6 or 1/8, I think it is, you penetrate more often, thus you start more fires. So now we start more fires. You still don't have really good HE damage, but that trade-off is well worth it, in my opinion. I would much rather start fires. It's about all HE is really good for. Anyway, AP across all of the cruiser lines is strong enough that you should use it up against broadside targets. You'd be really, really surprised at how much damage you'll do with those things. Also, in terms of stealth, it's not the stealthiest battleship in the whole wide world. See, I did it. It's not the stealthiest cruiser at tier 10, but it's also not the least stealthiest either. In fact, a full stealth build on this ship will definitely, 12.4, I think is, it's okay, 12.3. It's 12.3-ish. And that's pretty solid for a tier 10 cruiser. And the ship actually does really well at those close ranges. You've got 12 torpedoes correction. You have 16 torpedoes at your discretion here, 8 on each side. And that also really helps out. So you can get close. And we'll talk a little bit more about those in just a moment. So let's go ahead and let's dive into stats. 51,900 hit points for a tier 10 cruiser. Armor 110 millimeters at the belt, and it's kind of hidden underneath the torpedo bulges amidships, but it is 110 millimeters all the way across, and that is super nice. And it also has a turtleback armor scheme, and this deck here is 60 millimeters. So you've got 110 millimeters of straight belt armor with, it steps down to 100 in the middle, 110 at the ends. 60 millimeter for the deck, though, that angled deck there, that also is fantastic. So very hard to citadel the ship up close. It's going to take some high caliber battleship rounds to really do it. For cruisers, longer ranges in the midship area is definitely where to aim. In terms of torpedo protection, it does have a 16% damage reduction for torpedoes. Not the best for a cruiser, not the worst. It is better than nothing. The main battery consists of 12 of the 203mm or 8-inch 60 caliber length guns. They have a 20.7 kilometer firing range, a 10-second reload time, 15% fire chance that's going to be with demo expert on the captain, and very high velocity, 5,900 damage for the AP shells, 2,500 for the HE. Secondary armament does consist of 8 dual 4-inch guns. Base range is 6K. I mean, if you really wanted to spec this guy out in a full secondary build, you could. I don't recommend it, but I mean, you could if you wanted to. 11% and a fire chance there, 3.2 second reload time. Very, very useful if you happen to get within the range that they pop off. If you're within 6K of something, you're probably launching torpedoes as well, and that definitely helps put the fear into people. Speaking of those torpedoes, as I already said, you've got 16 of them on board. You've got 4 quad launchers, 2 on each side. They are the typical 6 kilometer, 64 knot speed, 13,700 damage, 1.3K detection range, and a 90-second reload. Anti-aircraft defense, like I already said, this ship is really quite potent. You'll notice that this ship has no AA mods on it. However, we do have advanced firing training on the captain to bump its range out, and that pushes your max AA range out to 5.4K. It steps down to 6. Correction, your max is 6K, and it steps down to 5.4K. Apparently, the 4-inch guns have lower range than the 55mm guns, and then down to 2.4K. So in terms of AA, we have 4 of the dual Flakfeilings. You've got 9 of the quad Flakfeilings, and you've got, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this, but they are 2 single 55mm and 7 dual 55mm. These things look mean as heck. Look at them things. those are mean looking. And then, of course, you've got the 4-inch 65 caliber 8 dual mounts of that. In terms of max speed, 31.5 knots. She's got an 800 meter turning radius, 5.8 second rudder shift time, but that's going to be with both rudder shift modules. And we'll talk about that when we get to modules, more about the reasons why I've chosen that. Detection range is going to be 13.7K. That's going to be with Concealment Expert on the captain, but without the concealment module. 9.3 kilometers by air. Speaking of those modules, you'll see here I'm running Main Armaments Mod 1, and much in the same way as Ron, I don't particularly care for the way that the main guns on this ship get taken out so easily. Part of that problem is I don't run preventative maintenance on this captain, and I just made a liar out of myself. That's awesome. I do run preventative maintenance on this captain, but I've noticed that the guns do get taken out relatively quickly, and AA carriers seem to avoid Hindenburg, much like they avoid Des Moines and Minotaur. So I don't see the Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1 build being all that useful, but it's certainly an option if you would like to choose it. The other options here, I don't think Magazine Mod 1 is really all that useful, and that's basically a magazine detonation reduction. Second upgrade slot, I'm taking Aiming Systems Mod 1. However, if you are going to run this ship as a anti-aircraft boat, I definitely recommend AA Guns Mod 2. Secondary build, we already kind of discussed. The secondaries on this ship are kind of weak. They do have a high rate of fire, they do have a decent fire chance, and they do have decent range, but overall I just don't find this ship operating in secondary range all that frequently, so I don't really think this is a good option. Reducing your dispersion and increasing how fast those torpedo tubes traverse, that's always good. Obviously, if you're going to run as an AA boat, increasing the AA gun mount firing range by 20% is also useful. In the third slot, I'm running Gunfire Control Systems Mod 2, and the reason for this is I want to push that range out to 20.7K. And that range is extremely useful for harassing battleships that are camping bow on. It allows you to keep your damage count up. It allows you to be at a distance in which you have plenty of time to react to their incoming fire. And that is basically the best way to play this ship, in my opinion. I mean, it does fine up close and personal, but it is a way better mid to long range cruiser than it is anything up close and personal. A Minotaur will absolutely destroy this thing at close ranges if it gets the opportunity to be angled like bow on, or enough of an angle to bring, its front 3 guns to bear. It'll just kill you with its rate of fire. Rate of fire wise, if you want to play the ship more up close and personal, you could definitely take Main Battery Mod 3, which is going to decrease the reload time on the main guns by 12%. That's going to drop it down to like 8 some odd seconds. And that's not too bad. My problem with this is the turret traverse speed. I'm running Expert Marksman on a captain, and I personally prefer to keep my turret traverse as high as possible for a number of reasons. Most importantly, in those turn fights, if you happen to get surprised, it's nice to be able to get guns on target fast. Torpedo Tubes Mod 3, really not that big of a recommendation on this. The 6K torps really aren't that useful. I don't use them all that often except for area denial. However, in the battle video that you're going to see, they do manage to claim a kill. So they do have their uses, mostly for area denial and getting battleships to turn and run away. AA Guns Mod 3 is also a viable option to increase your DPS of your AA by 25%. And if you really want to try running this guy as a secondary ship, there's that for you. I don't recommend it. I think the anti-aircraft is a little too weak. In the third slot, this should be Propulsion Systems Mod 1, and I currently don't have it set that way. And I've explained it in other videos, and I'll explain it in this one as well. My problem with Damage Control Systems Mod 1 is these benefits do not come into play nearly as often as losing your engines do. And losing your engines in a cruiser, in my opinion, is more deadly than losing your steering, simply because your steering, as long as you're able to maintain a speed, you can carry on whatever rudder shift angle it was. Hopefully it was some rudder shift angle and not just straight ahead, but That way you can at least angle away from stuff. However, it's impossible to angle when you're going 0 knots. So I definitely prefer Propulsion Systems Mod 1. I need to change this, so ignore the way I have this. Listen to what I'm saying, not what you're seeing. In this fifth slot here, Steering Gears Mod 2 for the 20% reduction in rudder shift time. Again, maneuverability on this ship is acceptable. It's better with the rudder shift modules. If you don't take the rudder shift modules, the ship simply is too sluggish and too lethargic. It doesn't want to turn, and it feels a lot like a battleship. That's one other reason why it gets the nickname Battleship Hindenburg. And so I prefer the quicker rudder shift time. Some people will recommend running Propulsion Systems Mod 2 for that reduction in time it takes to get to full power. Again, that only works in the -6 to 6 knot range. After that, it doesn't help you any. And so I just don't see this as being all that useful unless you play stationary a lot. And I don't in this ship. I use range as part of my defense, not islands. Damage Control Systems Mod 2 really doesn't have a place on this ship. The benefits don't play out nearly as well as the benefits in Steering Gears, in the rudder shift time decrease. In the last slot, I am running Steering Gears Mod 3 for the 80% decrease in time to repair the rudder, as well as the 40% reduction to the rudder shift time on top of the 20% reduction from the fifth slot. An honorable mentions here for either of the other two. Target Acquisition Systems Mod 1 is going to increase the range at which you are guaranteed to acquire other ships. Basically, proximity spotting is what that is. When you get close enough to a ship that's in smoke and you don't have hydro up, you will spot that ship at a given range. I want to say it's 2.5 kilometers. This increases it to 3.25 instead of being 2.5. That certainly helps. Plus 20% to your overall spotting range, which really isn't that useful. And 20% to the acquisition range of torpedoes. Extremely useful if you're playing the ship up close and personal and really aggressive. Concealment Systems Mod 1 for the 10% reduction in the detection range of the ship. Again, that's going to take it from 13.7 down to 12.3-ish, 12.4-ish, which can be useful. And, to each their own. I personally don't use this skill on this ship because I prefer maneuverability over overall stealth for this ship. 5% increase to the dispersion of shells fired at you as well. So that certainly has its uses, and either of these options are good. There's not one that's bad in this slot. Anyway, let's go look at a battle video. All right, so this battle is obviously going to be a tier 10 fight, and it is going to be on the map. What map was this on? Oh, Warrior's Path. We got a lot of cruisers in this match, so this is like the ideal situation for this ship. Just absolutely one of the best cruiser killers in the game. Easily one of the best. And again, I think that's part of the reason why she develops this reputation for being just an absolute bruiser when it comes to enemy cruisers, even to battleships to an extent. I mean, anything that presents a broadside profile is just going to eat a whole bunch of damage, whether that's in Citadel form, if it's a cruiser that you're firing at, or if it's a battleship and you're aiming, at the right place. Speaking of aiming at the right place, I know we've discussed this before in other videos in this series, but with AP from cruisers, you will never penetrate the belt armor of a battleship. You need to aim at the upper belt areas, which are significantly thinner, and this is especially true on US battleships. Anytime you hit that upper belt area, you're gonna get a whole bunch of normal penetrations, and it is going to do a lot of damage. You will see those 10 to 16k damage rolls just in normal pens from that. We are headed to B because we are the only person that spawned over at C. Absolutely zero reason to hang out over here with zero support. Even though this is Battleship Hindenburg, the battleship title it cuts both ways. She does a lot of damage, but she's also not nearly as maneuverable. She's not as good as a destroyer killer as she is other ships, but she does all right with them. I mean, if you get some decent pens, especially if a cruiser starts to show you their end and you can land some normal penetrating hits, that damage can add up pretty dang quick. So don't be afraid to shoot AP at destroyers if that's what you've got loaded. You know, you can also run expert marksman, or not expert marksman, expert loader, which would help you switch between those, but I'm not running it on this ship. And normally I would. So again, I don't know why. Sometimes, when I do these videos, I throw out these ideas. You know, preventative maintenance is a fantastic skill. I'm not dogging on it. In fact, I think it's one of the better skills in the Tier 1 tree. It certainly has a lot of uses. But expert loader is also extremely useful as well for cruisers. And I know that there's somebody that's going to get in the comments and start typing away furiously, but you don't need it. You reload so fast. 10 seconds is not a fast reload when a destroyer is just popped into range and you just happen to have your guns able to spot him, able to, turn to him and get to him. You might only get one salvo off if you're waiting for those things to reload when you could have had multiple salvos off. So we're almost to B, and we've got a Des Moines up here that is just begging to be killed. So we're gonna see if we can't get a good ambush on him. Kind of hover around in these islands over here. It looks like overwhelmingly their team has gone to A. Oh, we're radared definitely by the Des Moines. We're gonna see if we can't catch. Oh, he's look at the mini map. He's presenting just that perfect profile. Quick shot out here, but didn't hit him with any of them. And Des Moines goes bow in. Oh, a little bit of a lag spike here. And what's he doing? Oh yes. Oh yes. There's 14,001 salvo. How about some more damage, shall we? How about another 13,000? So we did 27,848 damage in 2 salvos. 3 Citadel hits, 9 normal penetrations. Yeah, that's how this ship gets its reputation for being a battleship. That is an insane amount of damage to just put out. And as much as Des Moines is really quite good at dealing out damage, and I've had the epic battle video on it showing just how quickly that damage can add up, the thing to keep in mind here is that Hindenburg does it with a 5,900 base AP damage. That is a lot more than what Des Moines has, and that is the advantage to it. Oh, yikes. Torpedo beats, and we're gonna get 1 on the nose, so we didn't get any TDS reduction there. Those were definitely Shimmatorps, so 12k. Something must have worked out there. We're not detected. We are running slow, and thankfully our repair is up now, so we can repair that. We're going to see if we can't dive into B here. We've got ourselves a destroyer here, a Yugamo. And we've got some smoke up here that would be beneficial to put some torpedoes into. So we're gonna dive on in. Oh, we're detected. What's detecting me? Ah, Mr. Edinburgh. Well, since he was visible long enough for me to get a lock on him, that means that those... Yep, there's 2 shells. We went up 17,000 damage in 1 salvo. I love this ship. This ship is so gratifying to play when it comes to that kind of Shimakaze coming around. The ship is so gratifying to play. You just every time a ship exposes some broadside profile, it's so easy to do an insane amount of damage with that AP. Now we got a Benson over here that has decided he's going to come around, so we try and see if we can't get... I'm actually legitimately surprised there were no torpedoes that came out from his little run here, but we're spotting him enough. Oh, we started him on fire. Good job, 4-inch guns, although I'm sure he's repairing that quite easily. Mr. Yugamo there, he ducked behind an island, started me on fire like a jerk face. Oh, what's this? Alright, fine. Mr. Edinburgh, don't threaten me with this. How about 11,800 damage? Nope, there's some torpedoes there. Angling away. We definitely want to angle away. Launch some torpedoes here into the backside of this smoke. Maybe we'll get some... catch that Benson off guard. So we're up to 57,165 damage. We've done a pretty good job of tanking damage here over in B. We're spotted again. That normally would make me nervous, but I'm really not all that nervous by it, because I'm assuming it's a destroyer. They're not shooting at me. I have an idea of where they might be. I'm blind firing there just for the grins of it. The S&Gs were detected by something. I'm assuming that's that Fletcher over at sea. Oh! Well, we found ourselves a Shimikaze with those torpedoes. We're up to 75,065 damage. Oh, what's not to like? I'm telling you, man. That this ship's AP, it's just fantastic. And if you're looking for other ideas on how to play the ship, I've got so many epic battle videos, it's not even funny. It's definitely worth checking those out if you've not seen them and you're looking for other tips as well. So you can see we're kind of in the back of our team, at least over at B. So we definitely want to get back into this fight a little bit. That way we can at least say that we're supporting things. Nobody can really complain. Mr. Edinburgh is over here. We're trying to get around to see if we can't help our Kagero. But Mr. Edinburgh, you're looking kind of juicy, so I'm hoping I can get around the end of this. Looks like the Kagero got the Benson there. Ooh. Oh my. Oh my. 21,768 damage in a second dev strike for the match. That brings us up to 96,833 damage. Wow! So 2 dev strikes in one match. Battleship Hindenburg just strutting her stuff here. So now, since we've got basically this side of the map all taken care of, we're going to go ahead and see if we can't go over to... What? 10,110 damage. We've not even shot a single salvo of HE in this match, and we're up to 106,000 damage. Another 6K. They're taking off of the off the Charles Martel. I mean, what's not to like about? It's just nuts how much damage this AP does, especially when you connect with it and get a good solid amount of normal pens. Heck, even getting in the Citadel hits. So, all right. We've got B, we've got C, we've got A. We're in a really good position points-wise. They only have 80 points remaining. So we're going to switch to HE to address this Missouri. Now, the Missouri has radar, which really doesn't concern me all that much. 590 damage, that wasn't a good salvo. Only one overpen there. That Charles Martel. It'd be nice to get the kill on that Charles Martel, but... Okay, so we got 4 pens there for 2,500 damage. No fire started, though. That was off of somebody else. And the Missouri's not even looking at us. We haven't even really been focused by anything aside from that Edinburgh and the Destroyer at the beginning of this. So we're going to shoot HE. Maybe we'll get another fire, or get a fire here. Since I guess our only other fire was from our secondary. And yes, there it is. And 4,000 damage. So we'll go ahead and... He's behind an island now. And we got 4 more hits for another 2,200 damage. And we're going to try and slow down and turn back around so that we can stay and keep him so that he is exposing a broadside profile to us. Now, they must have lost another ship in this because they are down to 30 points. We're up to 900, basically. Doesn't take much for those having all 3 caps to actually play out really well in our favor. Quick pot shot at the Fletcher. See if we can't maybe take him out. Get lucky. Nope, 825 damage. That was 1 normal pen. We managed to take out his engine. And we've got ourselves a Missouri over here that is broadside to us. So we're going to switch to AAP. And we beached ourselves. I'm going to call it tactically. But in reality, it was more or less just me not paying much attention. Really bad dispersion there, but we still managed 2,500 damage taken off. You can see where I'm aiming at up high on the Missouri, trying to get hits into that belt. 590 damage, and we don't get the kill, but the match ends. And so you can see what I was talking about. The AP on the ship is really strong, especially against cruisers. 130,100 damage, 2 kills, 11 citadels, 2 dev strikes, 9,087 XP, 2,375 base XP, only 609,000 potential damage, but look at how all that other damage is adding up. Just crazy. And yes, I do have the tier 10 camo on this. It's my only tier 10 that I have the tier 10 camouflage on because it's that awesome of a ship. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this Battleship Hindenburg how to play video. Let me know down in the comments what you thought. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.